The 7th anniversary. It's at that point where we have to discuss, is the 7th anniversary actually the best anniversary? Now, I was thinking about how I want to go about this video, and the points I'm going to raise in the way I'm going to raise them is very important. Two key terms here, objectivity and subjectivity. I'm going to try and be as objective as possible, and I have to do that because if I was being subjective, it leaves room for people to disagree or agree, and that's not what I'm looking for because I'm right. But to explain that in a better way, you guys should know I'm a fan of Vegito, and we didn't get any new Vegetos this anniversary.
Shout out Ultra Super Vegito for showing up though.
So automatically, if I was being subjective, there could be arguments against my points to say, oh well, you only didn't like this or you only like this because Vegito wasn't or was involved. And that's not the type of points I'm trying to deal with. I will only be addressing things that can't be disputed. So a conversation like Kaioken Goku isn't hype, I won't be addressing because that's your own subjective opinion. For another person, he could be the greatest unit ever. But I do understand you're still entitled to your own opinion, and ultimately the characters will make the celebration what it is. But I think for a celebration to be great, people should still be able to enjoy the celebration even if the characters don't appeal to them. And if you start thinking about the celebration like that and you shut off all your preconceived notions about what's hype and what's not hype, you then really get to see if the anniversary is really good or it's not as good as it seems. At the end of the video, I will give my opinion on what's the best anniversary, the second best anniversary, and the third best anniversary. And let's see if the 7th anniversary can touch any of those three. Let's get into this. So the first point I'd like to bring up, the key word is innovation. Innovation can be described as a new method, idea, product, etc. And in this celebration, I think what a lot of people are looking for is something new. This is meant to be the Super 7th anniversary, the Ultra 7th anniversary. And I'm gonna give it to you straight. In this category, the 7th anniversary absolutely fumbled. They failed when it came to giving us new ideas when it comes to the characters. I'm gonna read out a list of the characters that we got in this celebration, and I'm gonna tell you that only 3 of them have new mechanics, something that we haven't seen before. MUI Goku, no new mechanics. SSBE Vegeta, technically 1 new mechanic. Kalen Caulifla, no new mechanics. Kaba, no new mechanics. Kaioken Goku, no new mechanics. Vegeta, no new mechanics. Tien and Chaozu, no new mechanics. Nappa, a new mechanic. Ultra Super Saiyan Goku, a new mechanic. Ultra Frieza, no new mechanics. Krillin, no new mechanics. Kefla, no new mechanics. And Frost, no new mechanics. Of those 3 I mentioned, SSBE Vegeta, he comes with the Evolve Gauge, and his Evolve Gauge is basically just Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta from the 6th anniversary's gauge, but every time you empty it, you just get a new level, and it takes much longer to fill up. So although it is new, it's nothing great. We've got Nappa. Now his mechanic is actually pretty cool, and looking at it in the future, we could see certain characters actually using this mechanic and being good in game. I imagine Cell with Cell Juniors, I imagine Metal Cooler, and you guys could have some of your own ideas. So on its own, the mechanic is great, but we all know that Nappa himself as a unit is probably the worst unit to come out of the 7th anniversary. And by far the best new mechanic we got this celebration, on Ultra Super Saiyan Goku, we got the KO guard. Now this is genuinely innovative, using the scenario where Krillin dies, but in this case, Goku's able to save him, to be a genuine mechanic in game for any unit on your team, also not restricting it, is very, very nice. It's one I would genuinely give all my props. I completely respect it. But like I mentioned, these were the only 3 mechanics we got this celebration, at least when it comes to characters. If you want to argue that Ultra Frieza's Death Beam is a new mechanic because it can be comboed into, that's not a new mechanic. It just got upgraded upon. It's the same thing as Beast Gohan, but you can combo it. That's it. So when it comes to characters, genuinely, they released way more units, but gave us way less when it came to them. So in a sense, it's quantity over quality, and I think that makes a celebration worse, especially considering you'll be spending your Chrono Crystals in more places if you want all these characters. But past the negatives, they did innovate the whole game with the ground battles. Now there's 2 points I want to bring up with the ground battles, and everybody will have their opinion, but with the new game update, I'm going to say straight straight away that everybody's phone has turned into the sun. I know it's not just me. I use an iPhone 13 Pro Max and my phone literally has the Omnitrix turning into heat blast. Why is my phone so hot? Why is my phone lagging? All these factors makes the game unplayable. But on paper and actually looking at the ground battles, it's honestly phenomenal. Yes, now that we've played it for a long time, it's not that much to deal with, but it has decreased the amount of passive play, which I can overall respect. And of course, we have to mention the part 2 units. Goku and Vegeta, if they get the clash, you know you get the voice lines, which is very nice to see, the unique animation, the cutscene, and on top of that, there's more animations when you do certain things. So with the overdrive charge, the quick attacks, the KOs, it makes the game feel fresh. But this here can be subtracted from because I don't know if it's worth giving it to the 7th anniversary, because they literally could have done this at any point in the year and we would have felt the same about it. It's almost as if they knew they weren't being innovative with the units, so they decided to magic up the game at the time where they weren't doing anything with the units to distract us. And I don't really like that. I think when we think about previous anniversaries, when they've added new mechanics, we don't really include those mechanics when it comes to assessing the previous celebrations. So I'm not a big fan of including the ground battles as part of the 7th anniversary, more so something that conveniently happened during the 7th anniversary. But I guess only because Kaioken Goku and Vegeta have specific animations that coincide with the ground battles, I have to include it. So I'll give the ground battles its props, but when it comes to the units, they were very underwhelming. 3 new mechanics, one of them is barely anything, one is actually good, but it's the most useless one because the unit sucks, and the third one is actually valid. We have to be honest, this celebration has been the most generous Dragon Ball Legends have ever been in their entire 7th year. I'd say the biggest thing that was super about this celebration was definitely the amount of Chrono Crystals they were giving out. Chrono Crystals genuinely grow on trees, at least in the 7th anniversary, because they were handing them out like never before. There's not much more to say on this, to be honest. They were also generous with resources, but that's kind of standard in every celebration. So I'm not going to give them extra props for that because that's the base level. But the Chrono Crystals they were giving out, crazy. But there's also a counterpoint to how generous they were being. With the amount of units they released, having 2 banners in every single part and double ultras, that's quite outrageous. Including an after party too, I'd be damned if they didn't give us as many Chrono Crystals as they did. But I don't want to be ungrateful because I really feel like they went above the bar when it came to giving the players that play this game CC to gather the things they need. And I always like to argue, it's a gacha game, so they're trying to get their benefits as well. If you're summoning on everything, you're basically giving yourself the shorthand unless you're the luckiest person ever, because the odds aren't in favor of you getting everything if you're free to play with the amount of Chrono Crystals they give out. So for this, I'm genuinely going to give them props. I think they did a good thing. I think it's a great thing. Even though they did increase the amount of units they usually drop in a celebration, I think ultimately that's inevitable, but the amount of Chrono Crystals they give out increasing isn't inevitable. They don't necessarily have to do that. So I'm going to give them their props for this category. I think in general, this is the most generous they've been ever, and I don't think this should be debatable.
They still need to remove the 20k CC cap though. You ain't got away with it. We're still waiting. Please, devs, take action.
Let's talk about unit upgrades. We're addressing the platinum equipments, the Zenkais, and anything along those lines. A lot of people I've seen have been upset because they haven't dropped as many Legends Limited Zenkais as they usually would. In this celebration, we've literally only got one. That being Rev UI, who isn't the greatest right now already. The celebration isn't even over, and Rev UI is barely usable in the highest ranks. But if I'm being really objective about this, I think people are more so complaining based on what they want rather than looking at the situation in entirety. They gave out a lot of platinum equipments, which they don't usually do. In this case, 3 in one celebration. We got one for Ultra Hit, who's actually an old unit, so him being buffed up to be very valuable in the celebration is a good thing. I've been using him a lot, and his time skip, it can be 50-50 to be honest, but when you hit the ultimate, you're pretty sure to kill someone in most cases. We of course got Shallot as well. Now with Shallot, I'm not a big fan of him getting a platinum equipment as a substitute for a Legends Limited Zenkai. The reason that is because he's a free to play unit. I think if they're gonna give a platinum equipment, they should give it to a unit that isn't free to play, because they're more likely, or at least from the seams of it, to make them good. Now they did make Shallot good, don't get it twisted, but if everybody has access to him, it doesn't feel special, because if he was the best unit in the game, literally everybody would use him. But if it was a Legends Limited or an Ultra, not everybody can use him, and that's somewhat the benefit of summoning. So I don't don't feel like they should add Shallot as a factor inclusive of the upgrades they give characters, because they should be upgrading Shallot regardless. He's the story MC. But when it comes to characters that we summon for, we want them to last as long as possible because we spent our CC on them. So I don't want to give them props for giving Shallot a platinum equipment. He should be decent enough given he's the main character of the game. And because we got his platinum equipment, it somewhat feels like we lacked on getting someone else's upgrade. But we did also get Ultra Super Vegito coming late in the anniversary, but of course he has to make his appearance every single anniversary and pretty much stole the show at the end of part 3. Shout out my guy. But he's a good unit for sure, very valuable, good partner to Kefla, people running him because he tanks like a demon and he has good offenses. And then in regards to other platinum equipments, we got one for Gold Frieza, just isn't the best option to be honest. It could have been a lot better considering how good he was, or they were, in the 5th anniversary. We got one for Feetku, in my honest opinion, might be the best platinum equipment we got this whole celebration. For a Sparking to be hanging in the leagues of Ultras and Legends Limited is quite bizarre. He's such a good unit. And of course the Full Power Frieza, I think he's genuinely great, a little bit underrated honestly. He always finds a way to sneak back into the meta with the likes of LOE. LOE has to make their yearly appearance. It's like a ritual that the Legends devs produce. So in terms of unit upgrades, I think it's not too bad, but it's not great. That's one thing I want to emphasize. They could have done a lot better with the picks potentially, but more than that, how they decided to upgrade them. Because if you're going to bring back a unit that somebody's waiting to get an upgrade, they better be a unit that can actually perform in the meta, because if they're not, then what's the point? You might as well have left them dead, or maybe pick somebody else and gave us a better scenario. So it's quite disappointing when that happens in Dragon Ball Legends. Just a little bit disappointing for this category, but not too bad if you really consider the fact that they gave us platinum equipments. Now I feel like it wouldn't be realistic to do this video if I didn't touch on the reveals, but realistically this is a subjective category. I said at the start of the video I want to focus on the objectives, but this is the one category where I'm going to be very opinionated. A lot of people can disagree in this one and I completely understand that, but I'm going to try to be as fair as possible anyways. I think the part 1 of this celebration, that reveal was an absolute fumble. It had no pull. They're dropping MUI Goku and SSBE Vegeta, Goku and Vegeta's biggest forms in the Dragon Ball anime, and it did not feel like it was anything of value. That's insane to do. Do you know how much of a fumble you have to produce to make MUI Goku and SSBE Vegeta feel underwhelming? And there's multiple factors for that. The leak itself throws everything out the window. I know people had their expectations. For example, I did. I thought they would go Ultra MUI because of the theory that was going around, but then they go ahead and drop a Legends Limited MUI. But not just that, it's more so the fact that it leaked. So I think it was almost 4 or 5 days before. I already know that it's a Legends Limited, and it throws off my whole mentality for the whole celebration. If I saw it in the reveal, I genuinely would have been shocked because I was expecting an Ultra, and I would have been amazed because its animations are actually good. But because I'd already seen them, it just made the reveal feel lackluster because they didn't give us anything special. On top of the fact that it was 50 minutes of stuff that I already know, events that aren't different from previous years, and characters I've already seen. That's a shame. So the part 1 reveal, it's easily one of the worst ones they've ever dropped. Part 2, I'm gonna give them their props. As much as you might not like the Saiyan Saga units, the ground battles felt exciting to see. We're seeing these animations and these cutscenes, we're thinking, whoa, this is a mobile game. People were genuinely feeling like, and I'm not gonna lie, the way they were producing stuff, Dragon Ball Legends, the devs, they might be pushing more power than the Sparking Zero ones. With the way this game was looking during that reveal, damn, I was thinking these guys are different. Regardless of your opinion of the Saiyan Saga units, the ground battle reveal felt exciting. I felt like I was getting into something new. People were speculating. We didn't know what was going to go on. Nobody expected Saiyan Saga as well, so that also threw people off. It's what a reveal should feel like. So I give them their props for part 2. It wasn't the best reveal of all time or anything, but it was a great reveal, and that's what I want to give them props for. And then for part 3, again, we kind of expected Ultra Super Saiyan Goku because of the things that were going around previously, but Ultra Frieza was a very big swing to the left. We did not expect that. Some people did, of course, and with the 2 new Ultra idea because they've only dropped Ultra Perfect Cell before that, it made this reveal feel good. We had the performance from Kageyama. Some people are a fan of it, some people aren't. Me personally, I enjoyed it. The music is great, and the ink art for Goku and Frieza is actually quite spectacular. If you are a Dragon Ball fan, at the purest level, you can appreciate the face-off on Namek, which made this reveal feel great. Again, I don't think it's the best reveal ever, but they definitely did do a great job with this reveal, so I will give them their props for that. But like I said, this is the most subjective category. I think for some people, the part 2 or part 3 reveal could be the best thing ever, and if you didn't know about the leaks in part 1, you might actually like the reveal for MEY Goku and SSBE Vegeta. But I think the opinion I've given is what most people feel is best, especially considering a lot of people don't feel like Frieza should have been someone for the anniversary, and a lot of people don't feel like Saiyan Saga should have been part 2 in their biggest anniversary. But I digress. So now to bring in the results. I'm gonna keep it plain and simple. No, it's not the best. This is not the best anniversary. And there's one factor that I want to include for this celebration being a lot more underwhelming than it should be. You know, the super 7th anniversary. It's literally got 6 anniversaries before it to learn from and improve on top, and it still somehow didn't manage to be the best. And I think when you have previous examples to learn from, it's much easier to produce something better because you have the template. But when you don't have a template, you have to really just produce something and hope they like it. Now you could also argue other ways. Like I said, I'm trying to be objective here. Sometimes the original is just better. But for the points I'm gonna raise, the first anniversary isn't the best anniversary. And I think most people will agree with that without a moment's notice. There's 2 anniversaries I'm going to take above the 7th anniversary. But the second one, it's really interchangeable, but you can take it as you will. So I think a lot of you guys feel this anyways, but the 6th anniversary absolutely slams the 7th anniversary. And again, this has nothing to do with the character selection. It's more about how they produce the characters, the innovation, the reveals themselves, the unit upgrades. The 6th anniversary is the closest thing we've had to perfection. Now granted, some of the things they pulled off in the 6th anniversary can only be pulled off because of the character selection. So I'm really avoiding the idea that it's Fusion Warriors that made the 6th anniversary hype, but more so how they created the unit. So fair enough, in part 1, we have Vegito and Gogeta. If we're being objective, these are without a doubt the most hyped characters Dragon Ball could bring out. But that's not the point here. They could have just gave us a bland Vegito and a bland Gogeta that we've already had in Dragon Ball Legends almost every single year. But they didn't do that. They raised the bar completely, not just in animations, but in mechanics. So first off, we get the synchro mechanic. This in itself brings a new fresh feel to the characters we're using in PvP. We get the 2 characters that we like, Goku and Vegeta. Even if you don't like them, whatever. You fuse, you get another character. Not transform, you fuse. But if you wanted to argue that, hey, it's just another transformation, fine, you can have it. But the devs said, we're not done. We just added a new mechanic. Again, you could argue it's not a new mechanic, it's just a transformation. And then gave them both individual new mechanics. Vegeta with the Rising Rush guaranteed win, you just can't go wrong with that. The animation is insane, and it makes the game feel a bit more fun, not if you're on the receiving end, but if you're attacking, because you know it's gonna go through. And there's nothing more amazing than winning. And then on the other end, we get Fusing Gogeta Blue with the Strike Assault. Now granted, it's not the best thing playing on the field, similar to how I discussed Nappa. Nappa's not good, but the mechanic itself, valid. Strike Assault visually is beautiful, but I would argue, and this shouldn't be debatable, Gogeta Blue with his Strike Assault in the way he performed in the 6th anniversary is light years ahead of what Nappa's doing in the 7th anniversary. So we're gonna give Gogeta Blue his props. Part 1, complete success. The reveal is well. We see Vegito, somebody we're all expecting, and we're thinking, alright, cool. Whatever's next is not gonna be more hype. It's literally impossible. They're not gonna drop 2 Fusion Warriors. They've never done that. Nobody has that in their mind. People were expecting a God Goku, and only naturally do we have those thoughts. But then they managed to surpass something that's already the pinnacle of hype by dropping something else that is of equal levels, if not more. Gogeta Blue, they have never put the Dragon Ball Legends audience with their emotions into a washing machine like this ever before. So again, I'm not trying to push the idea that because it's Fusion Warriors that it's especially hype, but that is objectively objectively the truth as well. But outside of that, they literally gave us new mechanics, and that's only part 1. Part 2, I'm not gonna lie, it's a fumble. Not in terms of the reveal. The reveal was good. It's more so the character selection that people didn't feel were amazing. But ignoring that, mechanically, there's nothing fresh here. It's just good animations. Same thing in the 7th anniversary, all the animations were good. But part 3 is where we really get the wow. So we get the extra special reveal with the car drifting, but that's subjective. But it's G4 specifically that brings the value to the celebration. So if you want to argue that his counter mechanic is just UGB's counter but upgraded upon, we can say it's not a new mechanic. But when everybody heard him say 1000 time Big Bang Kamehameha, this exceeded the realms of what we expected. Already we got 2 fusion warriors, so we're also not expecting a third. Again, I have to keep repeating this because I'm trying to tell you it's not the characters, but it's really what they're pulling back to back to back with new mechanics. But at the same time, it's not possible if you don't consider the characters. But back to my point, the 1000 time Big Bang Kamehameha, they have to change the Wikipedia page because this is the first time it's ever been seen in Dragon Ball. No other media has ever produced this Gogeta. And if you're a Dragon Ball fan and something like that happens, you can only appreciate it. And if you don't, honestly, you can't be a real one. But special moments like this, I think is what really makes us feel like this is really special. And only addressing the innovation of characters, I think that alone is enough to take it over the 7th anniversary. But the other anniversary I wanted to talk about is the 5th anniversary. In the same boat, they produced a lot of new mechanics. So first off, let's talk about Gold Frieza. Gold Frieza coming with 2 elements. The first unit to drop with 2 elements, blue and purple. That's already outrageous, blowing our minds, right? But then they also have the Rising Rush stop mechanic. And then on top of that, in their legendary finish, they've added all this scenery to make their legendary finish more spectacular than anything we've ever got before it. It's a step up from everything we've ever got in Dragon Ball Legends. So it's 2 new additions in terms of mechanics in a sense. So Element and the Rising Rush, then on top of that the legendary finish adds layers of detail that we've never got before. Part 2, there's no new mechanics here, but what I do want to say is because they chose to drop superhero units, it's the first ever renditions of the characters we've got. Now Gamma 1 and 2, we did have the free to plays, so I'm not going to talk about them, but it's the first ever Orange Piccolo. In the 7th anniversary, there was no character that we hadn't got before. All of these are characters that exist just in new rarities or in new forms. Subpar the Sparkings. So the anticipation for superhero units really raised the bar. And then in part 3, we get Ultra Vegito Blue. Again, it's not about the character, but the tap actions are really raised the bar. It made us feel like we're playing a console game. You guys have played Dragon Ball games on the PS2, unless you're like 12 years old right now. But even if you haven't, you might have played Sparking Zero, and tapping the controller to get a higher attack than the person you're playing is such a nostalgic feeling. And the fact that I can do that in Dragon Ball Legends with my 5th anniversary Ultra is a step up from anything we've ever got in Dragon Ball Legends. So for that reason, I've also got the 5th anniversary above the 7th in terms of innovation. But what I will say is other factors such as character upgrades, chrono crystals, so generosity, and you could say potentially the reveals, for example for part 2, but I think the part 3 reveal was spectacular in the 5th and the part 1 reveal was spectacular as well. You could keep it as interchangeable, but for sure the 6th is first, the 2nd, 5th, but I'll say it's interchangeable with the 7th, which I'm putting 3rd. But that's going to be my 7th anniversary evaluation video. I think I've hit the nail on everything perfectly. There's literally no room for debate for the points I've brought up, but ultimately how you feel about the characters will decide how you feel about the celebration. If they drop your favorite unit ever in Dragon Ball Legends, you're going to hold that celebration dearly. But if they don't drop any characters you like, how will you enjoy the anniversary? And that's how I've addressed this video. So for that reason, I'm right and I know I am. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button. We're on this grind to 200,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching the video, man. My name's Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.